Thank you for having us. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be the first to talk to you after your press conference. First of all, I want to ask you the practicality of the sanctions. What changed in your life? The minute you have sanctions, what changed?
I cannot feel it yet. I thought people would react naturally by, saying this is a sanctioned person. We would be far from him. I felt people closer to me, sympathizing, especially on the lack of justice is something people hate normally. In my personal life, I didn't feel it yet. I will, maybe due to the closure of the credit cards or the bank accounts.
Do you recall the last time you used your credit card? Would you tell me the last time you used your credit card?
I don't really recall. Maybe the last trip I made was before Corona spread in last February, if I'm not wrong. I don't know if I used it after. But bottom line, it's a very small price to pay to save your country from what may come. I was asked to do something that would have destabilized the country, and I really...
When I think about Gebran Bassil, the Minister of the Foreign Affairs, you were the person to lobby and to go to the United States for years. You are a person of lobbying. You are a person who has high-rank connections and friendships in Washington. The first question that occurred to me, how come you didn't lobby yourself out of the sanctions?
Because I know with big political decisions, there's no need or no use to do efforts that will take you nowhere. It is a political position that I have. No one can impose on me or on our movement, political movement, things that are not out of our conviction and of the national interest of the country. So the fact of dictation cannot work with us. On top of this, I'm well aware that this policy will change one day.
Okay, this is a very important part. Do you really? Some people interpreted your press conference as sending messages to the new president-elect, to the new administration in the United States. Do you think this would change? This would flip eventually?
No. What I meant is, I know the position about Hezbollah is a bipartisan, policy. What I meant is the sanctions. Is it a really useful tool to get to the objective of the United States? This has always been a debate, whether sanctions or openness and dialogue. I believe dialogue would take into our case. Will this take them to their objective? I think not. It is something that will strengthen Hezbollah, not weaken Hezbollah. And it's something, when it is unjust, that will also make people sympathize with us.
Okay, when we go back to that, there has been a give and take between the Ambassador Shia and your office. She's saying something, your office is saying something. What's the deal with that?
It's not about a deal. We were asked to break our relation with Hezbollah, and our answer was this, or we will be sanctioned. And our answer was informed, this cannot work this way. And in the content, this is something that has to be worked out with the concerned people. We want to reach the objective. The objective, despite our differences with Hezbollah, we have a memorandum of understanding with them that is saving the country, from chaos and other things. So we want to reach the objective, and this is something that we can talk to you, the Americans, to Hezbollah, and to other Lebanese.
But then again, there's just the practical, logical question that comes out. What's the concern with Hezbollah? It's Israel. In your press conference, you said ideologically you're not really on the same page with Hezbollah. So it was paradoxical, kind of paradoxical. Are you with the peace with Israel?
No, we are for the protection of Lebanon first.
Okay.
Independence and sovereignty of Lebanon, and for the return of the Palestinian refugees too. So no, we have our problems with Israel. What I meant by ideological, it's the position of Hezbollah against versus the existence of Israel by itself, where the Palestinians and all the Arabs are saying we accept the two states. Then you accept the state of Israel and you accept the state of of Palestine. And this is the essence of the Arab Initiative, which was taken in Beirut. You know,
so you are aligned with that.
We are aligned with that. This is the official position of Lebanon, of course.
Something occurs to me. Would we live to a day, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years, maybe 5 years? Would I see you as a Lebanese shaking hands with an Israeli prime minister? Would that happen?
You know, our position is not to have peace unless we have our rights.
But it may happen.
If we have our rights, and the position of Lebanon has always been that it's not only the rights of Lebanon, it's for the Arab countries. So we are in a position where we have to have a comprehensive solution. The problem with Israel is Israel does not want peace, not us. We believe in peace. We don't want war to last forever. The problem is Israel is using the concept of force instead of the concept of rights. And what is our position is you base peace on mutual rights. Everybody has a right to preserve.
Still, if all that is sorted out, we might see you in the future doing that.
You might see me doing that when all the rights of the Arabs are really, the concept of the mutual rights is applied. So we don't have an ideological position against the Jews. We don't have. We are a people and a country who work and strive for peace. And when we fight, and fiercely, we fight to preserve our rights, our existence, and our objective is peace, not war.
I would like to ask, what's the link between the normalization, the Abraham Accords, the Arab normalization with Israel, and our maritime border talks, and the future of the relationship with Israel?
You know, I don't see a direct link. No. I think this is...
Nothing will change for Lebanon-Israeli relationships with all the Arabs now normalizing?
No, this is one issue. Like we solved some, complicated issues on the land. You know, this is one issue that if we solve, it can help us to stabilize the region and, the issue of offshore gas in Lebanon.
If you gave in with that, would have you been saved from the sanctions? Was this one of the things asked from you, the maritime borders?
No, what I did about the maritime borders came out of my conviction that this is an issue that we should solve, preserving the rights of Lebanon. If it is one problem less and a step ahead towards stability, fine, let it be. We have no problem to. We are not looking to increase the problems with Israel in the region. We want to decrease them and to solve them. So if Israel would tell you, we'll return to you the Shib'a farms, we say no? Of course not. We want the Shib'a farms, the return of the Palestinians, the issue of the borders. So any problem we can solve, we strive.
I want to end the Hezbollah matter in one part. It is very obvious for anyone in Lebanon that politically, internally, in the governments, there has been many differences between you and your ally Hezbollah. And most recently, you said in your press conference there are thoughts about these differences. Would this break eventually? Would you break up with them even after that you took the sanctions because of the alliance? Would you break the alliance?
It has nothing to do with the sanctions. Okay. We did the memorandum of understanding with Hezbollah because we thought it's in the interest of Lebanon. When it stops being the interest of Lebanon, we break it. You know, it's not something sacred. But as long as it's serving the internal peace in the country, preserving the national unity of the country, and it can help us, to consolidate the concept of the protection of Lebanon. And this is very important. We are not for, eliminating another country or attacking another country. The aim of this is to protect the country. Very simple.
You have previously said in 2 times in interviews that the East is not only Iran and Russia, the East is also India, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia. You have mentioned that.
Of course.
So now with the sanctions from the West and you still being the leader of the largest Christian bloc, so you're not going to go anywhere, or your political party, are you looking or tackling the possibilities of Eastern relationships, of building more...
I don't take personal positions out of a sanction that was imposed on me.
No, but this door is closed
now.
No,
I understand. But this is, the attitude of the United States is pushing the people in the region to go towards east. We want Lebanon to stay a bridge between east and west. Okay. But if they want to cut the bridge, and to cut the ties, they are pushing us towards the east more. It's not what we want. We will keep on looking for good relations with the United States, with the American people, and with any upcoming administration who would be willing to change a policy. We are not calling but for a friendship with the US, with the West, but we cannot accept things that would really threaten our existence in the region. And we cannot exist in the region without having strong ties in the East where we are enrooted.
Okay. There's another question that I would really like to ask you. There's been a history of swimming against the river for President Michel Aoun, and you are following this legacy. It is one of a kind. You are one of a kind to be a Christian leader now in this time in Lebanon and to be undergoing all that. So do you think eventually, having the history of assassinations, do you fear for your life?
Fear for the life is something we live with. We accept it in this region, in this country, when we are fighting for our existence. So this is something that would not add or decrease something of my positions, my political stance. So my answer is no. It's something I consider and I live with and I accept.
Isn't it a little bit larger now these days?
Maybe so.
Another question from a different place. Now Syria is undergoing the conference for the refugees, and you have been the person talking about the refugee issue for years now. How come you have no take on that? And some people are saying that you also try to be friendly towards the United States by not really going to the Russian point of view on that.
Not at all. On the issue of the Syrians displaced in Lebanon, our position is clearly closer to Russia. We are in a deep dispute with the Americans and the West in normal regarding this issue. I'm not personally in an official position in the government now to be in Syria for that. We have a minister representing the country. It's a high-level representation from Lebanon, which shows, our position on, agreeing for the return of, and I think this kind of conference and the guarantees from the Russians, and mainly the guarantees that would be given from the Syrian state to the refugees that come back to your country, you are safe, you will live in your dignity here, and we will help you with whatever possible to encourage your return. And here comes the responsibility of UNHCR and the West, to finance that return. The problem, they are financing the stay of the Syrians in Lebanon. They should finance their return to Syria. This is their place.
I don't want to be repeating the questions, but everybody knows that you have been undergoing, you and all the political elite in Lebanon, a Lebanese uprising against you, and you have been the rock star of it. But also we know you have always been the man with a plan. You had a plan for electricity, you had a plan for diaspora, you have a plan for Lebanity, you have a plan for everything. But where is the actual execution today when you wake up? What is your plan for Lebanon while it is just going to the collapse?
The priority is to stop the collapse. And our plan is very clear. Political reform and economical and financial reform on both tracks.
Other than the plan, what are your steps? What are you going to do now?
We presented them. We want a secular state in Lebanon, for which we have a plan of 7 steps to execute. And we want to change the economical model. We want to have an economy of production and to change also the financial model that we...
When you speak of a civic state and a secular, given the demographics in Lebanon, given the change, the variables around us, do you fear that the demographics in Lebanon in the future, like one day we will have a Muslim president?
If we will keep on fighting for our existence in this region, Lebanon should always be different. It's not about having a Muslim or a Christian president. It's about preserving the role of the Christians in Lebanon and in the region. This is more important, having a president or no. So how do we do this in order to keep Lebanon as a model for diversity? So my main concern for the existence of the Christians in the country is to preserve a unique model that Lebanon is presenting to the world, a model of dialogue, instead of having a model of confrontation, like we are seeing even in France now, or in the US, or in any part of the world. We have to choose. We want to live together, not only in Lebanon, in every part of the world, or if we want to choose the confrontation based on our differences. And this is where Lebanon can be the good example to follow. And this is where sanctions, isolations are all taking us towards extremism in different forms, where Lebanon is made for dialogue. So we should all work together on appeasing any kind of extremism and violence from any part, coming from Christians or from Muslim. And this is where we expect the West to help us, not to add to the division that we have.
Now, after the sanctions, some people or anyone can see that your stakes are higher with the Iranians and with Hezbollah and all that. Some people say that you might be the next president and that your sanctions would be on the table between Iran and the US talks. Is that possible?
And people think that I'm finished politically. So I think this is not.
What do you think?
I think no one can die unless he decides to suicide. But no one can kill you politically in this country, as long as you have your cause and people supporting your cause. We are a free patriotic movement. This is our strength. And we have our history of endurance and resistance. And I think eliminating us is like killing a whole country for what we represent, for the unity and the freedom and the sovereignty of Lebanon. And this is a dream that people can keep on dreaming until they wake up.
I just want one last soundbite from you. For anyone, for the global viewer who is watching you, they don't know you. They have recently heard about the sanctions, and maybe they know you have been a foreign minister. Today, as a Lebanese person, from this rank to the world, especially to the eastern part, what would you say about your stand? Who are you? What do you stand for?
I'm definitely not like I am portrayed now in the media. No one can change the reality of a person. I'm an honest, a patriot, and I will never be a corrupt person, and this reality, this truth will appear sooner or later. So I'm simply a man who loves his country and who will keep fighting for the Lebanon we want, the diverse Lebanon and the free country in a region that is full of violence and extremism. We will always be a shining country.
Speaking of violence and extremism, there's a difference between your portrayal of that and Hezbollah's portrayal. Hezbollah sees that one of the largest groups that comes to the area is from the GCC countries, whereas you said something about Idlib, which is Turkey. Do you have the same vision on the terrorism that is channeling and funneling from the Middle East towards Europe?
I think terrorism is funded and supported by many countries in the East and in the West. So it has many faces and names, but the depth of it is the same, and it's been used politically to reach some political objectives. So we cannot live with terrorism. Unfortunately, countries are adopting this model, more and more, and it's spreading everywhere now. And it can reach any place. So people who are inventing, some terrorist groups are being used against them. And this is an endless war, This is something that no one can stop unless there is a sincere, joining of efforts from everybody to eradicate terrorism. And this is where I believe someone like us, some people want to eliminate us politically because we are real fighters against terrorism. And terrorism in our region is not only from Islamist groups. It's also coming from states. Israel used terrorism, state terrorism against us. Unfortunately, this is a reality, and we will have we will never have peace in the region. Even with the normalization now efforts made, we will not have peace, real peace, if it's not embraced by the people, far from terrorism, and only based on the concept of giving each one his rights. People without their rights, they will keep on fighting forever.